Welcome to the Dead Arm Dynasty podcast, where we try to give a refreshingly candid take on the long-term fantasy value of football players throughout college and the NFL for all you Devy League, Campus to Canton, and Dynasty fantasy football managers. We're just three friends who spend all our time talking fantasy anyway, so we figured why not get a few mics and capture our conversations. My name's Rick, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Josh Pecoraro and Jacob Ellis, a.k.a. Jealous. Welcome back to the show. Today we're covering risers, fallers, overvalued players, and undervalued players. But before we dive into that, let's just check in with the boys here. We just got back from a week-long vacation where we were doing a lot of drinking and golfing. How you boys feeling?
Well rested, I had the whole weekend to rest up and get the liver detoxed. So back at it today, drinking more beer, ready to talk some football.
Absolutely. What you drinking?
Still rocking the old Costco Goose Island pack. I've had 24 of those bad boys. You guys came and helped me drink some of those the night before we headed up for the golf trip. But
that 412, so strong.
312?
312?
312, is that what that is? That the wheat?
Yep.
That would be the area code of where that comes from.
Okay. Well, 312, very strong.
Yep, so I had 3 soldiers left, so I'm rocking an IPA right now, and I got a 312 in the chamber ready to go when that one's done. So
Attababy.
Should be a fun night.
Fun fact, 412 is the area code for Pittsburgh, which is one of my favorite places in the country. Maybe that's what I was
thinking about, just making sure you got your Pittsburgh fantasy in
here.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what you were thinking. Joe, what are you drinking on?
I am sipping on what actually Josh introduced me to, a truly strawberry tea. It is very delicious. I am very happy about that introduction. However, after that long week of golf, Monday through Friday, I then had a wedding on Saturday. I am still recovering. If you guys hear any sort of raspiness in my voice, it's still kind of in recovery mode, so just want to make that, give that disclaimer out there.
I feel you there. My voice took a little bit to come back to me, too.
Is that because you guys were yelling for the beer cart?
I'm pretty sure that's probably how I lost it on Thursday. I spent all day Friday trying to recover. Didn't really happen. And then that wedding Saturday, we started, we had our party bus that started around 2 p.m., and then the partying, drinking, dancing, screaming did not end until after 2 a.m. So it was a solid. It was a strong rally, solid 12-hour rally of
solid week.
Getting back to it. It was one of the best weeks of my life. I'm not gonna lie.
Awesome.
I'm not gonna lie about that.
Hell yeah. Well, and now we can ramp up to football season here. We only got a couple months until things really kick into gear. Camp gets going and preseason games are rolling through. So
what are you drinking, Rick?
Yeah, Ricky.
Yeah. That's great. I'm drinking a Michelob Ultra out of a aluminum pint because that is what I planned on bringing to the golf course to save myself money from the beer carts, and then I forgot them at home. So
classic.
Now I have to drink them.
I had a full 15 packs worth of a mixture of Coors and seltzers and Millers that we had brought for the same intention. Plus, I ended up leaving almost that full 30 of Busch that we had planned on using for beer darts.
You left it in the hotel room?
I had to leave it in the hotel room. Could not.
Oh, that's sad.
I did not have an extra check bag for the Busch.
No Busch left behind. Come on.
You could have paid to have him come back.
Normally I would. Hopefully that suffices as a tip for the
You just gifted some. You gifted some 16-year-old.
And they're gonna love it.
Case of Busch that they should turn in. I just want to clarify for legal purposes they need to turn that into the hotel.
If they were,
you and I always turn those in at the golf course we worked at.
Always,
of course, yeah.
Always turn those in.
You guys are definitely the most responsible duo that I know out there. So of course you guys
absolutely.
did.
Yeah, of course, especially on golf courses. All right, fantasy football time. Let's start with risers and fallers, specifically risers. at this time of year, the main things that can cause a player to be rising or falling are mini camp reports, injuries on the team, coach speak, all these things that are, useful in bits, but you have to take it with a grain of salt. But we're going to do our best to glean some information out of all that's happened in the last couple months here and identify what players are on the way up or down for fantasy purposes. So, starting with risers, let's jump over to you, Josh. Who do you want to bring up as a player who is rising lately?
I mean, I feel like we have to start off with the show here talking about Kyle Pitts. I mean, with Julio Jones getting traded over to Tennessee, I mean, that just opened up the floodgates for Pitts just to have a monster season this year. You can also throw Russell Gage in there as maybe a flyer too that has a little bit of a increase as well. But, man, I mean, Kyle Pitts, if you have him or have an opportunity to draft him, you got to be licking your lips there. I mean, with that potent offense, Matt Ryan hasn't shown any signs of stopping yet, so I expect to have a huge, huge rookie season from Kyle Pitts this year.
Yeah, man, I'm licking my pits.
God.
That's what you said,
keep
right?
It dirty. I actually have, so I did not have Kyle Pitts on my list of risers. I feel like he's already high enough on a lot of people's lists. However, I did have somebody that Josh just mentioned. I do have Russell Gage on that list. He's right now being drafted as the number 72 wide receiver. He's gonna be that number 2 wide receiver in ATL. Right, he's gonna be right there with Calvin every single play. And the other thing with Gage, they can throw him out wide, they can throw him in the slots. He can throw passes. He's gonna be all over the place. So Russell Gage was definitely one of mine. He's also slotted as that number 184 overall from the ADP that we're going off of. And if you can get him way, way earlier than that, please hop on that because he's got a lot to offer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You guys picked a good team for risers with the trade of Julio Jones. I think that Russell Gage is the biggest beneficiary of that just because his role with Julio there is pretty limited. But without Julio as the wide receiver too, suddenly he's kind of a big deal. And, of course, Pitts will probably be the number 2 target in that offense, which is, licking my pits over that as a dynasty owner of Kyle Pitts.
The other thing, I mean, Gage did have a few games last year where he was a legit contributor. So, and that was with Julio on the field. So,
right.
There's a reason that they felt comfortable getting rid of Julio. Obviously the addition of Pitts, and obviously Julio's contract situation, and they had to get under that cap number. Those probably were the 2 main factors why they were okay with letting him go. But still, they were okay with Russell Gage being that second wideout on a play-by-play basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to jump into mine here. My riser I'm thinking of is Elijah Moore. This is definitely stemming from camp reports so far. Everything coming out of Jets camp, which I know it's Jets camp, but this is kind of a new Jets team.
It is. It's new.
This is a new Jets team though. We have new head coach, new quarterback, new entire offense, and what's happening so far in Jets camp is that Zach Wilson is constantly finding Elijah Moore in the red zone. It doesn't seem like they have any DBs who can stop him. That doesn't mean that there aren't DBs who can stop him because this is still the Jets. But the point here is that Zach Wilson feels very comfortable trusting Elijah Moore around the red zone and just all over the field. Sounds like he's kind of been hyper-targeted throughout camp so far. And in that Jets wide receiver core where you have kind of these 4 guys who are all, potential starters with Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, Jamison Crowder, and Elijah Moore, the early reports of who's doing well does mean a little more than it should for other teams because this wide receiver core is kind of all over the place, and whoever performs in camp and in preseason is going to be who starts on the field week 1. So I'm starting to have more and more faith that Elijah Moore will have a prominent role early in the season.
I agree with you completely. I mean, I think Elijah Moore is probably the most talented player in that wide receiver room. Corey Davis, he's fine. They did pay him a lot of money, so he's gonna have to
He'll be on the field.
basically serve as that wide receiver one. But I don't think anybody thinks that he's the most talented receiver in that room. Denzel Mims, he's, out of college, out of OSU, I thought he was going to be a stud last year.
Wasn't he a Baylor guy?
Thought he was Ohio State.
Josh, weigh in here.
May be wrong.
Denzel Mims, Baylor,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
All right,
Baylor.
well, screw me then.
Will do.
All right,
Maybe later.
appreciate that. I think that but I do think that Elijah Moore, I mean, he's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the ball skills. He probably will show out in camp. Where I question where he will show out, I mean, he just doesn't have the experience that Corey Davis does. But
Right.
again, risers, this is the right platform to put him in as one of the risers out there.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing Jets camp evolve. It sounds like Zach Wilson's having a good time, too. He's picking things up pretty quick, which is exciting given all the question marks around him.
And his mom.
Did you guys have... is it... Jill, do you have a comment for his mother?
Oh no, I pretty much that's all right. That's all right. I'll
Okay.
I don't kiss and tell, so I save it for the DMs.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. A lot of judgment on that kiss and tell there.
Hey-o.
Do you guys have other risers you want to bring up right now? Or otherwise we got the undervalued section later, which is, sort of similar, sort of not. Take it or leave it. What do you think?
I've got... Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Okay. There's one guy that I can't believe that I am seeing him as being underdrafted right now is Saquon. He's coming in as the 5th running back and the 5th overall pick. That's behind Derrick Henry, who, and especially if we're talking PPR leagues, not really going to contribute in terms of PPR. And if we're talking Kamara, we don't know what that QB situation is going to be. Saquon, obviously he's coming off that ACL, but he's that number one weapon for the Giants. I don't know how he's falling to number 5 because he was the consensus at least top 2 pick last year. Not everybody comes off an ACL super strong, but he's young enough. I think he's going to come back. Those quads are going to power through that knee, and I think he's going to be a boss. I can't believe he's coming in as that number 5 RB. I don't understand. Can you guys try to help me figure out why?
I can give you one reason. This doesn't totally explain it, but there are a lot of people over the last 2 years that have been completely burned by owning Saquon. Their entire season has been lost because they drafted Saquon early.
My entire season was last year.
Right. And that's those people, and it sounds like you're an oddball here. Those people have such a bad taste in their mouth from that experience that they would rather take the safety of a guy like Derrick Henry who shows up week in and week out and dominates, rather than a guy who has not been able to play a lot of games in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
I think that's one reason.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, too, remember 2 years ago his playoff stretch that won a lot of people championships as well. But the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, he was just kind of standard along the way. Like, yeah, you weren't upset having him on your team, but he wasn't the number 2 overall pick that you thought he would be as well.
I mean,
Part of that problem is
for a fact that's going to be steady Eddie, I would think when he's on the field, you're probably going to be in for probably between 90 and 140 yards rushing and probably up to 40 yards passing and probably at least a few catches out of the backfield. I think that's absolutely worth a top 3 pick.
I mean, what you just described is an enormous full-length season if he did that every game.
But I think that's what I'm saying.
Game.
I mean, I think that you're probably going to get something close to that probably on a week in, week out basis. That's
still the New York Giants we're talking about here. Their offense has to be good enough to keep him on the field, and they have not been good at that in the last 3 years.
No.
Okay, so let me throw this at you. You've got all these additional targets now. You're going to have, the idea behind it is you're going to have more red zone targets, more time, or at least more red zone opportunities for him to bust it in from the 6 yards out into the end zone.
I hope it happens. We're still banking all of this on the shoulders of Daniel Jones, which I don't feel very comfortable with.
That's pretty fair. And, I guess if Daniel Jones is going to be running a freaking 5.3 40 like he did in that one game last year in prime time, then that's just going to take Saquon out of the game entirely if he's just going to keep doing that. So, I don't know. I just feel like he should be... I rank him higher than Kamara. I rank him higher than Derrick Henry.
Okay. I see you. Josh, any other thoughts to add there?
No, not on Saquon. I'm good.
All right. Any other risers from you guys?
Only one I wanted to touch base on is there's been a ton of news out of Denver's camp on Javonte Williams as well. Melvin Gordon hasn't been showing up for the OTAs, and Williams has looked great. So that's a team that is built on their defense. Start playing in cold weather, they're going to want to be pounding the ball. And if Williams is looking good during training camp, OTAs, I think you're going to see him on the field a lot quicker than we originally anticipated. And Melvin might just be kind of kicked to the curb. He's only got 1 year left on his contract, so, he may even be somebody that they could end up cutting if they really wanted to and felt confident rolling with Williams.
I actually had Melvin on my list of fallers. Look, I just seeing his ADP, I was like, F no, he does not deserve to have this spot right now because Javonte is coming for that spot. So I'm glad that you touched on him because I was about to just basically say the exact same thing. I think the Broncos are all in on Javonte, and they haven't really been happy with Melvin at all.
No.
So Javonte taking that spot over, like you said, I would not be surprised if he got cut. I don't know what his contract looks like. I don't know what that guaranteed money looks like. But I would not be shocked if he ended up getting cut if there wasn't too much money on the line.
Yeah, and when you have Teddy and Drew Lock there as your quarterback, you're going to be wanting to run the ball as much as you possibly can too.
What are you saying? You saying those guys can't lead a franchise to a Super Bowl?
I think Teddy could do it with an outstanding defense. That's neither here nor there.
No, he still couldn't. He absolutely still could not.
Yeah, like we said back in the Rookie RBs episode, Javonte Williams is hyper talented. This guy's going to be awesome. All he needs is the opportunity, and Melvin Gordon is handing him that opportunity right now. So we'll see how things shake out in the months to come. But yeah, totally agree.
The other thing with
rising for
just
sure.
One last thing I need to touch on with Melvin, is he still dealing with anything with that DUI, that DWI?
Everything got dropped.
Did it?
Everything got dropped.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's good. Somehow, I guess that's what happens when you got that kind of money.
Yeah, I guess buy your way out. Let's jump into fallers then. I'll go first on this one, and you guys are just gonna love that I am bringing up this guy as a faller. As much as I love this player, he is falling in my heart a little bit. That's Irv Smith.
Your boy.
Your
boy.
I know. There's a couple problems happening right now for Irv that I don't love and make me scared for the upcoming season. And first and foremost, it's that last week Mike Zimmer came out and said that he does not see Irv's role increasing at all, and what he really sees is Tyler Conklin walking into the Kyle Rudolph role that was vacated by Kyle Rudolph leaving town, which is so fucking dumb. But besides the fact that I would like to see Irv on the field for every snap, the reality of the situation is that if his role stays the same as it was, he'll have some streamable games like he did last year where he's a serviceable tight end. He gets the job done sometimes. Other times he'll be a huge disappointment, and he's not really going to have boom games unless it's like 4 catches for 3 touchdowns from 5 yards out every time, which I think something close to that happened a couple times.
Doing.
Yeah, he can do that, which will make him a streaming candidate all the time. It's just that he's going to be disappointing as much or more often than he will be someone you can rely on, which makes me very sad.
You'll be frustrated too because the games that he'll go off are the ones that he'll be sitting on your bench.
Now,
that's exactly right.
Do they want to throw Conklin in there because Irv Smith obviously has to be the better receiving target. Is Conklin just the better blocking target, thinking they're going to run the ball with Dalvin hardcore? I mean, we know Zimmer's offense. It's going to be run heavy.
Right. I think the knock on Smith has always been the blocking, and that's where in a Mike Zimmer offense, he really cares a lot about that because he wants Dalvin to touch the ball 100 times a game.
As he should,
so that's,
by the way.
Right, which is fair. But that offense has a lot of different weapons, and I wish that they would use them all a little bit rather than throw everything at Dalvin and Justin Jefferson and let the other guys kind of fall off the rails a little bit.
I mean, they still do spread that ball around quite a bit. Thielen had 14 touchdowns.
He had a bunch of touchdowns last year, yeah.
I mean,
big red zone guy.
Yeah.
He's not going to have that again.
Not a chance.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not banking on that again either. I think the only Vikings I can rely on now are Jefferson and Cook, and everyone else is questionable at best in my mind. So odds are I'm falling back to where some people had always seen Irv, which is maybe outside the top 12 tight ends or right down towards the bottom of the tight end ones.
What up, my party people? It's your boy Jealous. I got to put in a good word for our friends over at Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the absolute easiest way to record a podcast. Anchor has creation tools that allows you to record and edit right from your phone, your computer, or your tablet. Easy as that. It will also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other listening platforms. You can also make money directly through the program with no minimum amount of listeners. And best of all, kids, it's free. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Well, to keep your trend going of players that we really like and are on our teams and we have them as fallers, I'm going to throw out DJ Chark Jr. as one of mine.
DJ Chark.
There's been reports out of camp that Urban Meyer is incredibly disappointed with the way he played last year as far as his size and hands, and that he needs to play a lot bigger. And Laviska Shenault has been looking really good in OTAs. And they also signed Marvin Jones Jr. to come in and play. So DJ Chark is somebody that he could end up not having a role. There was a rumor during the NFL draft that he had been traded to the Ravens, but that was just hearsay that never ended up going through. But it just makes me wonder what his role is going to look like, especially with Shenault is kind of like a gadget player as well, where he can run and do jet sweeps out of the backfield. He's also great deep threat. But DJ Chark has fallen, and it sucks because I have him in multiple leagues, and yeah,
hopefully
I'm wrong.
So we obviously all heard about ETN and him taking snaps as a wide receiver, at least early on in camp. Now lately it's been all at running back, but still they obviously wanted to see what he could do as a receiver. I could see that also taking away potentially targets for Chark. The other thing I did want to say, you just mentioned Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones was incredibly strong for the Lions last year, especially in the red zone. I could see him being, honestly, I would not be shocked if Marvin Jones ended up being that top receiver, at least right away, with Trevor Lawrence.
Sure.
Yep. And it's hard to, with Urban Meyer having a brand new system being brought in, Trevor Lawrence coming in, you don't know where those targets are going to be spread around to either. So that also could be a reason for the decline as well. But
yeah, not to throw salt in the wound, but man, do I love Laviska Shenault. That guy is awesome.
He's a beast.
He can do everything. I have a signed football of his sitting in my apartment,
Is that actually signed by him, or was that or is that signed like the the Chinese
the old AJ
Green,
Green?
Chinese AJ Green jersey?
That is
That's
very
in my
different.
closet.
That's very different than the Chinese blaze orange AJ Green jersey. This is legit off of Pristine Auction, not a sponsor.
Hashtag not a sponsor. Hashtag we want you
yet.
to be a sponsor.
Yeah,
please.
Yes, that's where I got
Hashtag
it.
please.
And LaVisca can do it all. I'm pumped about his future. Urban Meyer's going to love him. He should have been in the risers category too. Let's see, Jell, you knew
He was one of my risers, but we skipped.
I was about to say
over that because I was going to bring him up during DJ Chark.
Charky
nice.
Chark. I was about to say Chenault can do it all, and you know how Urban does with those types of players, where he
Curtis
will
Samuel.
throw it. Exactly. That's at Ohio State. That's when Curtis Samuel has been at his best, where he was thrown in the running back, in the backfield, out wide, in the slot, on jet sweeps, all that kind of bullshit. So, I mean, Chenault can do all that sort of stuff. I could see Urban just using the hell out of him, and Chenault could be a riser.
Boom. Nicely
Boom.
said. Joe, what you got for a faller for us?
So, I'm going to try to stay away. You know, I obviously touched on my thoughts on Saquon, and I think that Kamara and Derrick Henry should fall below him. So I'm not going to do another dive on those two players.
Okay.
But, and I also touched on Melvin. However, Kenny Golladay is a guy that Giants gave 18+ mil a year to, and I just don't see him as a really, really strong wide receiver one. He put up most of his numbers with, throw up balls from Stafford, who, let's be honest,
a lot of garbage
time. And let's be honest, Stafford learned how to throw a lot of garbage time balls, a lot of throw up touchdowns, because he had Calvin Johnson with him.
A lot of vomiting touchdowns.
And he had Calvin. Daniel Jones has never had any sort of receiver like that at all. I don't see how Golladay and Daniel Jones kind of marry up. Galladay's not the most, there's no way that he's the most talented receiver within that receiving core. He's a good, jump ball, red zone kind of player. Has Daniel Jones shown anybody that he can be a good jump ball, red zone passer? Not at all. So I'm not in on Kenny Golladay at all. I guess the only reason that they signed him was to see, can Daniel Jones make this work? But I don't think it's going to. There's also, you still got Darius Slayton, you still got Sterling Shepard, you still got Evan Ingram. They just signed Kyle Rudolph, and Saquon's coming back.
And Kadarius Toney, did you mention him already?
And, well, Kadarius Toney's not going to fucking see the field, so.
Okay, all right.
I am glad, Ellis, that you brought up Kenny Golladay, because he was actually on my list of overrated players for drafting. I can throw some stats your way because I was prepared to talk about him as well. But right now in both redraft and dynasty leagues, he's being drafted in the 5th round. Other wide receivers that I would rather have that are going right around where his ADP are is Cooper Kupp, Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett. I think those guys are all ones that I would rather have over Kenny Golladay and should have more production this year.
Cooper. If you have a choice out there between Cooper Kupp and Kenny Golladay, Cooper Kupp with Matt Stafford,
yeah,
or Kenny Golladay, this don't be an idiot. Take Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, totally agree there. We'll hear a little more of Galladay's name as we continue, but let's move on here. Let's jump into the undervalued players, guys that we think just deserve a lot more respect in the fantasy world than they're getting right now. Josh, you want to kick this one off for us?
Yeah, I can for sure do that. I've got Travis Etienne as one of my underdrafted players right now. As we kind of touched a little bit on him earlier, he's been seeing the field in a lot of different ways, whether that's wide receiver or running back. He's currently being drafted at the 88.7 overall player, which dynasty-wise, that is the 3.07 in other drafts. It's looking at the 7th, 8th round, and I think he's going to end up seeing the field a lot more than James Robinson and progressively take over that role. I know in previous episodes we kind of bashed him a little bit, but I think just for being able to get some depth in your running back position and his future being a rookie for dynasty purposes, he's somebody that I would look to later in the draft depending on where he's falling, and right now he's in a great spot to draft him.
Yeah, I think the versatility is everything there. Part of why we bashed him is his ability to bash into his own O-line when he's running up the middle. So if Urban Meyer can get him to stop doing that by sending him in different directions, whether that's runs to the outside or pitches or screens or just lining him up as a receiver, that all spells great news for his fantasy value and a little bit for James Robinson. I'm a James Robinson truther, so I'd like to see him get some carries back. But yeah, I totally agree. Jelly, you got thoughts on that?
I would imagine that James Robinson would be kind of more of that traditional back, and Etienne would be that, kind of the guy that plays more wide out. Some of those pitches, some of those running back screens, some of those bubble screen, type of plays. So, it's going to be kind of tricky how this running back room how this ends up turning out. But they took Etienne in the first round to use him, which makes me think Etienne's going to be that premier back, and Robinson will probably fall back into a lesser role. My concern, though, and this is where pretty much all running backs make their money in terms of, actual money and on the field and in terms of fantasy, is how much are they going to use Etienne in the red zone at the goal line? Because I could see Robinson being that primary goal line back.
That's a good point. Robinson could end up with, not a ton of yards, but he could still squeeze in 10 touchdowns, while Etienne could have 50-plus catches on the year and not have that many scores. Josh, what do you think there?
Yeah, Robinson definitely could end up being the goal line back, which he could have a lot of production for you. I'm just looking more just to have a nice piece on the bench. Later in the rounds there, you're looking at a lot of guys that might not even have a role or see the role on the field unless somebody gets hurt in front of them. And for those that maybe don't go running back heavy at the beginning of it, he's somebody that you can snatch up that should see some playing time that you could be able to plug in even in redraft forms at the end of the season.
Where would you where would you rank him versus Robinson?
You're going to end up paying up right now for Robinson, and I don't know that I would want to do that just because I don't know what his role is going to look like.
Yeah, I'll take Etienne over Robinson.
That's kind of where I sit with Ricky on that too.
Yeah, that's right.
And I guess with you, Josh, as well.
Yeah, because I'd much rather have Etienne at a later draft capital and use my pick where I would have to take Robinson on somebody that I know is going to get playing time and play the whole season.
I'm going to throw some names at you guys. You let me know who you would still take ahead of Travis Etienne out of these guys. These are all right around the same.
Is this just going to be like a yes/no?
I'll just give you the list and you tell me who you like better. Kenyon Drake, A.J. Dillon, Damian Harris, Leonard Fournette, and Mike Davis.
Mike Davis, hard yes. I'm big time on Mike Davis. Too. I actually had him in one of my risers. I had him. He's at his ADP right now is the 30th ranked running back. I think he's gonna end up finishing way higher than that. If you look at that Atlanta running back room, there's nobody else that is gonna be stealing carries from him. He doesn't have. There's not, at least right now, it's not like even when Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman were splitting that running back room, Devontae Freeman still put up mad numbers. Mike Davis doesn't even have any sort of competition. So Mike Davis, hard, yes.
Yeah, I'd say Davis and Harris. Harris is still scary with New England. running back, but he is supposedly going to be their starter, and he should see quite a bit of playing time. But I'd still think I'd rather have ETN just with all the work he's done in the wide receiver game as well.
Yeah, so. and if we're looking Dynasty, I would take ETN over all those guys. But if we flip it to redraft, I totally agree on Mike Davis.
Yeah, okay, good, yeah.
And probably maybe Harris too. I'm a fan of Ramondre Stevenson, so I'm a little concerned about Damian Harris. I have both of them in Dynasty, so I don't really care who wins. But
You're so
yeah. Mike Davis will be interesting though. He will have all of the groundwork. They did snag rookie Javian Hawkins, who's basically just a wide receiver at the running back position, very fast. So he will take away the passing game work maybe from Mike Davis. But
Mike Davis
that's
isn't
it.
necessarily a passing game back either.
He's not.
So...
No. He will dominate on the ground, which is exactly what he's supposed to do, and that's going to be good for fantasy because he'll get touchdowns. Let's move on. Jell, what do you got for a undervalued player for us?
So I have to hit up the fan base within Wisconsin with a solid Allen Lazard.
Hey, I like it.
He's going to, there's no chance that he loses out that number 2 receiver spot to MVS, and Amari Rodgers he's not going to be starting out wide at least. Amari is a strong slot guy, but Lazard has proven that when he's healthy, really solid outside, and I think that's his wide receiver number 2 spot. And if MVS wants to try to come for it, he's going to learn how to catch the ball. Lazard does know how to catch the ball. He's physical. I feel like he's exactly the type of receiver that, pending Aaron Rodgers actually playing. This is also, by the way, assuming Rodgers is going to play for the Packers. This is a Devontae Adams type of receiver. Big, physical, speedy, route runner that Aaron Rodgers likes.
Yeah, the huge thing is if Rodgers is playing. On my fallers list, I had the entire Packers offense right now because if Rodgers isn't there, I don't want anybody on that team. I really don't, because I don't trust Jordan Love at all. I don't trust what they would be doing. Rodgers makes that entire team, so that's something to keep in mind with, and I was going to bring it up during fallers if we got to anybody on the Packers as well, so I'm glad you threw Lazard out here, Ellis, but anybody that is drafting right now, that is something to take into consideration when you're deciding between a couple players that you're looking to draft. Is Rodgers hasn't committed to the team. If he's there, then heck yeah, Lazard, Adams, Jones, fire everybody up, but if he's not, that's going to be a huge question mark what their offense looks like.
Yeah, I agree on both accounts. Obviously, everything is scary without Rodgers. I do think that Lazard has all the talent. He's the clear wide receiver 2 going into the season. And if Rodgers is there, then Lazard is going to definitely be a value because a lot of non-Packer fans will be sleeping on the name Allen Lazard because they don't normally see him every Sunday like some of us do. So, yeah, absolutely. Assuming Rodgers comes back, Lazard is a big-time value. And I don't expect his ADP to change. Funchess is an animal on the pickup basketball court.
He was asshole. He was just dog shit in Carolina. He's not gonna. Why? I don't even know why the Packers signed him. It was the biggest.
I don't either.
Biggest waste of a roster spot that they could have done. That they could have had.
Based on that video from his pickup basketball game, he's a very competitive, fiery guy.
Oh, cool. We got a big competitive fiery guy, just like every single goddamn player in the NFL. Every single damn professional athlete. Wow, sweet.
Most of them.
Well,
yeah.
outside
Get
of
pumped.
outside of
there's a handful. Johnny Manziel.
Ben Simmons. I don't know if you guys had been watching any
I heard
NBA,
something
but
about that.
He's not doing anything in terms of trying to improve his free throw shooting. He does. Sorry, NBA tangent. Ben Simmons does everything in his life right-handed, but he chooses to shoot left-handed, and he sucks at shooting, and why does he just still continue to shoot left-handed? I don't get it.
You should probably tweet at him.
I'll probably I probably should. That would probably change his mind, right?
Yeah, that would do it. We're going to move
Yes,
on
please.
off of the NBA talk.
Yes,
Back to the undervalued players. I've got a couple in mind, but the first I want to bring up is Najee Harris. Najee is everyone knows that Najee is awesome, but so far the ADP doesn't reflect that he's being given the respect that I think he deserves here. When I think of Najee being basically a solo back in Pittsburgh under Mike Tomlin, he's one of a handful of real workhorse running backs in this entire NFL, and he's being drafted like he's part of a committee, maybe playing second fiddle to somebody. Right now he's, RB21 in redraft leagues and pick 72 overall in Dynasty, which puts him, 6th round around there. That's just
crazy.
trash.
No, I actually had him, so he was on my initial list of risers as well, because I looked at his ADP and I was like, I don't understand this. He's going to very, very, and I don't mean to cut you off, Rick, so I apologize, but he is going to be the obvious starting back in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh uses their backs like an MFer. We saw that production out of James Conner, mad production, especially his first year in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And he's nothing in terms of talent in comparison to Najee.
Agreed. Absolutely. This is silly that he's not being treated like a top, at least an RB1, if nothing else. Make him a low-end RB1 because he hasn't shown it yet. That's fine. In my mind, in Dynasty, he's one of, the top 5 running backs that I would want to be taking right now. Like, I'll take him over guys that are close to the end of their shelf life, who have proven it year after year. Like I don't want to say Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara, but they're getting to that over Zeke. I'll take him over Zeke all day.
So that's actually Kamara was the name that I wanted to bring up. Would you in Dynasty Najee over Cook?
I thought you were going to say Kamara. I'll take Najee over Kamara. Not over Cook yet.
Not over Cook.
No.
Cook still got some solid years.
I would sit in the same spot. So obviously, shoot, we could take Zeke's a piece of shit. I'm so Cowboys blow. Okay, I agree with you, Josh. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say Kamara too, with Drew Brees gone, and we don't even know who the quarterback's gonna be either. So I'd almost go Najee there too. I think I'm on the same page with you, Rick.
Yeah, in Dynasty, get him in the first round, and in redraft, still treat him like he's no different than, Zeke or Aaron Jones or one of these guys who goes at the back of the first. He's no different. He's going to be a workhorse. He's going to play under Mike Tomlin. He's going to dominate. It's simple. He's crazy talented. He has everything going for him. Stop being dumb and take Najee when everyone else is deciding to sleep on him.
But if you're one of the smart people listening to this podcast, don't draft him too early and let him fall, and you can maybe sneak a good pick in the second round too.
If you know your league, for sure.
Know your league.
Exactly. Know people that you're drafting.
And make sure they're listening to this pod too.
Hashtag DAS,
well, then,
tweet at us.
Then everyone has all the information.
DAS. Just want to make that known.
Make sure they listen to it after your draft happens.
Hit up those DMs. We'll get back to you.
That's the way.
That is a promise. We will get back to you. Hit us up in those DMs.
Let's see. All right. Well, you guys got other undervalued players you want to touch on?
I can kind of transition over one for redraft purposes that I wanted to throw out there. I thought it might give a good discussion with us. Keep an eye on the battle because we don't know who's going to be the quarterback. But currently, Jameis Winston is being drafted with an ADP of the 223rd player overall. You can practically get him for free. Plug him into an offense with Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Adam Troutman. He could make it work there. I mean, he made it work in Tampa with Bruce Arians. Be prepared for some pick sixes. I mean, he was a 30 for 30 quarterback, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. But since he's left Tampa Bay, he got LASIK eye surgery. So I think he's good to go. He's going to cut those interceptions in half.
He finally got
No,
he
not
finally
really,
got
but I think he's somebody you could grab a little bit later on in redraft. Dynasty, no. Keep
Yeah,
him
not
maybe
Dynasty.
for a super flex or
Yeah.
way
That
late
would
if you
be-
need a
that
backup
would be
quarterback.
that.
But
You'd have to get him in a super flex type of a league for Dynasty, no question. But if you can snag Jameis late, I mean, even with his 30-30 season, he still put up over, I believe it was over 5,000 yards.
Yep.
So, and his fantasy numbers were phenomenal. Put him in there with Sean Payton. He's got, like you said, he's got MT, he's got AK, and I mean, they're gonna whip the ball around, and I'm thinking that interception total will go down with
It has
Sean
to go down.
Payton.
Yeah, I mean, that's
because Bruce
insane.
Arians is cool with throwing picks. I mean, we know his offense. It's a whip it around type of an offense, where Sean Payton, that's not the way he does it. He's more calculated. He's like a professor. He's like, this is the way that I want to do it. Do it exactly this way. We do it this way. We win.
And Tampa didn't have Alvin Kamara in the backfield either.
That's-
They had Ronald
that's very,
Jones,
very
so
true.
they didn't have anybody to hand the ball off to. So he can take a lot of load off of his back with handing the ball off to.
Yep.
They had Peyton Barber back then.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. No, stud.
Was Mike Allstott there too?
He was still there.
Work well done.
What about the muscle hamster, Doug Martin?
Oh,
There's a
Dougie
throwback.
Doug.
That's
That guy has some like records for most fantasy points in a single game. Except I think Kamara just beat him like a year ago. But
He
I
did
remember-
have that 1 year that 1 week. where
Yeah, he had a
just
game
went
that was
off.
like 280 and 4.
Yeah, I
Insane.
played against him
Insane.
that week because
That
he
was-
got traded
yeah.
in our league, so I had to face him 3 times that year, and I'm pretty sure his combined yards and touchdowns that season were like 400 yards and like 8 touchdowns in the 3 weeks he played me.
Amazing.
Dick.
Incredible. What a douche.
Hamsters hate you, Josh.
Guess so.
Is that why that why you guys have cats?
That must be it.
Yeah, keep the hamsters away.
Exactly.
Yep.
All those fucking wild hamsters.
Sneaking up to the 3rd floor of a condo.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
never know. You never know.
I want to touch on another undervalued player. This is going to be, I think, a trend from me until I'm proven wrong. I will keep beating the drum for Cortland Sutton. The total disrespect for his talent is just ridiculous in terms of fantasy ADP right now. It's when he was last healthy, he came off an 1,100-yard season with, I think, 6 touchdowns, and then the camp prior to last season, the reports at the time were saying that no one on Denver had an answer for Cortland Sutton. He could do whatever he wanted to their defense. And their defense isn't bad. And it's still, it's still solid now. And we'll see what camp reports come out as he recovers to full health and starts playing a lot. But right now in redraft, he's going at pick 85 behind DJ Chark, Juju, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, Claypool. I'd take him over all those guys in my mind. In Dynasty, pick 51, that's better at least, but he's still behind Galladay, Chark, Ayuk, Juju, the 32-year-old Julio. I don't know where exactly he'd fall in there, but I'd take him over at least most of those guys.
I will say I almost threw up when I saw that he was behind Juju.
It's
Are
insane.
you kidding me?
Yeah.
The talent level behind. I mean, Juju. So Juju does get mad catches. Only because Ben cannot throw the ball downfields, and Juju just runs all these slants and gets a lot of balls. But look, if you look at that talent level, I feel like Sutton had to be just completely forgotten about because coming off that ACL, because his talent level is way above some of these guys. If you look at this ADP.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of nuts, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's got the improved QB situation with Teddy Bridgewater in town now. He's got guys around him that can take the pressure off in Judy and Fant and Hamler. Everyone is using recency bias and forgetting that Cortland Sutton is a player when he's in reality a total alpha wide receiver who's being overlooked by everyone.
And that Denver wide receiver squad is really strong, even without him. When you've got Judy, when you've got Tim Patrick, who actually put up some decent numbers
Yeah,
last year.
not a bad player.
He's serviceable for sure.
Serviceable numbers, and then obviously Noah Fant. So
Throw KJ Hamler in the slot.
Yep.
I think, like you said, Eric, it's just recency bias with him coming off of the ACL injury. People didn't really remember him much from last year, obviously, because he was out, and then his awesome year that he had before. But I think, too, just with the QB situation, which is improved, but it is still Teddy Bridgewater. However, Teddy Bridgewater gave multiple receivers in Carolina great seasons last year.
Yeah, he just supported 3 guys if you count all of Curtis Samuel's rushing touchdowns. So
I guess if we're gonna just give touchdowns away.
Well, I mean, he earned them his own way. They just weren't all Teddy's doing. But absolutely. I just think that's dumb. Everyone go get Cortland Sutton because this is silly. Jell, you got anyone you want to add to the undervalued category?
So, I don't know. I feel like I touched on a lot of the guys that I really wanted to. However, I did look at Trevor Lawrence, and his ADP is he's the 16th ranked QB in terms of ADP. So that's behind guys.
Is this redraft or dynasty?
This would be redraft.
Okay.
He's behind Matt Ryan. He's behind Ryan Tannehill. And my biggest beef is that he's behind Jalen Hurts. The Eagles are going to be an absolute shit show. So Hurts is going to have to throw the ball. His main value, Jalen Hurts, his main value is on the ground. If they're down 14 after the first quarter and a half, midway through the second, they're going to have to start whipping the ball around to try to make those points up. Why would he be behind Jalen Hurts? That's point number one. The second thing about Trevor Lawrence, and also pretty much on the same, kind of with the same headspace, Trevor Lawrence is going to be behind in a shitload of games, given that the Jags were the number one pick. They do have a decent amount of talent offensively, and they've got some special, they've got Josh Allen on defense, but Josh Allen's pretty much the only guy that they've got on defense. But they're still going to be behind in most of their games, so they're going to be whipping it around. We saw what Blake Bortles did back in 2015 when he threw for like 4,500 yards and just pretty much all garbage time numbers.
Yep.
So
always behind.
I'm thinking Trevor Lawrence, he's got the sweetest arm that the Jags have ever had. Better arm than Mark Brunell, who was probably their best QB before him.
What about Byron Leftwich?
Yeah, hey, he wasn't bad.
Yeah, that's not the great
Super Bowl champion Byron Leftwich. Call him plays for the Buccaneers.
Oh, put some respect on that name.
Yeah.
So, outside of Byron Leftwich, then, Trevor Lawrence is the most talented QB they've ever had. They're going to be behind in a lot of games because they have no defense. They're going to be throwing the ball around. He's going to use his legs. He's going to put a lot of yards on the ground. I would rank him ahead of Matt Ryan, who does generally put up pretty good numbers, but I think Lawrence can outdo him because he has the threat on the ground. I would put him ahead of Joe Burrow. We don't know what he's going to do in terms of, he's got his knees going to be fully recovered, but we don't know how he's going to, they still don't have an offensive line. And again, I would put him ahead of Jalen Hurts. I would also consider him ahead of possibly Tom Brady. Possibly. We'll see how.
Sure.
Arians is still going to want to whip the ball around. But I wouldn't be completely shocked if Lawrence ended up at the end of the year over Brady.
Yeah, I won't be shocked either. I don't think I would go quite as far as you with some of those other names you threw out there, but it really comes down to his rushing usage. That's my question mark. And if he does rush, then he will beat all of those guys.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't run that much, like, I don't know, Herbert didn't run a ton last year like he did it early on, and then it kind of tapered off when he had to throw a ton in coming from behind games. If Lawrence has a season like that, then maybe he's behind Matt Ryan and certainly Ryan Tannehill and some of those guys. But not. I agree on Hurts in a big way.
I basically see Lawrence having a very, very similar year to Herbert's year last season. That's pretty much where but we'll see.
I'm fine with the comp except for the part where Herbert just broke all of the records last year, and it's not like records get broken every single year, so I don't want to assume that it'll happen again.
But Herbert just broke Baker's rookie touchdown record last year, so they definitely can.
Right, it's been like 3 years since Baker's rookie year.
Right, but this is Lawrence.
I'm just saying. He's on the Jags. Let's find out what actually
I'm not
happens
guaranteeing
here.
that he's going to be a stud year one and he's going to put up mad numbers.
Well, you just said he's going to have a similar season to Justin Herbert.
I do think he could.
Okay, could is a better word. I like that better.
Speaking of Herbert, he's one other person I wanted to bring up really quick. Dynasty ADP right now, he's being drafted in the back half of the 11th round. Just insane. Setting rookie records last year. Has Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, Jared Cook coming in. He's being drafted behind Josh Palmer. He's being drafted behind in Dynasty Carson Wentz, Daniel Jones. Just ridiculous. People, what are you doing? Dumb. 11th round.
Did you say Daniel
End of the
Jones?
11th. Daniel fucking Jones.
I need a trash bin. I need to vomit. I don't see any.
You got that cactus behind you.
Damn it.
It's insane. I mean, if you can hold on and get him there, you just won your draft. It's insane where he's going. That's all I wanted to say. It just
couldn't agree more.
Shocking.
Yep. That's a huge oversight by everyone that did not watch Chargers games last year because the Chargers weren't ever on TV.
Idiot.
I get that part. But I went out of my way to watch all the Chargers games in perfectly legal ways. And
lies.
I loved watching Herbert every single week. Every time I felt so confident starting him in fantasy because I saw him on the field and I saw how dominant he was, and he just doesn't screw up, which is what you want out of a quarterback.
Well, we all saw Herbert when in the Rose Bowl against the Badgers, right? I assume you guys both watched that game when in school, and that was his best game of his career. And if he would have played like that his entire career, he would have easily been the number one pick in that draft. But, you know, there's a lot of talk of Oregon really holding him back. If we knew... I guess we saw Burrow's rookie year. We saw Herbert's rookie year. Does Herbert go number one in hindsight? Or does Burrow still... I would say the same. I would say Herbert easily goes number one in hindsight. And Burrow did show a lot of flashes that he can be special. But Herbert showed he absolutely 100% is special and is a franchise quarterback for the next, decade and a half.
Yeah. Just last week, Drew Brees was hanging out at minicamp at the Chargers, and he said he's never seen a quarterback with the physical tools that Justin Herbert has. And when you pair that with his great decision-making from last season, which we have, 15 games of tape on, there's just no way you can go wrong with Herbert.
I look at Herbert as kind of like if you look at him, compare him and Josh Allen has the size and more of an arm, but Herbert has a way more accurate arm, and I think that Herbert has a little bit better decision making. So I mean Josh Allen is strong as hell.
Got great speed,
and Herbert does have the legs as well. So they're gonna end up probably having pretty similar careers.
Agreed. Yeah, totally agree there. Let's transition into overvalued players. I want to start with one that Jealous kind of gave us a bit of a segue to when you were just trashing on Hurts. I don't want to put Hurts directly in the category. What I want to do is say right now Miles Sanders is overrated. And that hurts as someone who's had Miles Sanders for his whole career. The issue, well, there's a lot of issues. He's been injured every single season that he's been playing. He's missed plenty of games, and he's been questionable and barely playing in a bunch of others. Now he has Kenny Gainwell as a new draft pick coming in. He still has Boston Scott out there, and Kerryon Johnson was signed this offseason too. So this is a crowded running back room on a shitty team with a quarterback who is probably not going to be able to move the ball besides with his own legs. Normally, rushing quarterbacks are helpful to the running back production. We see that in places like Arizona and Baltimore. They're good at it because their QBs can actually throw the ball, at least some. Jalen Hurts so far has not proven that he can throw the ball at all, which spells really bad things for the running game because Jalen Hurts' legs will be the only thing keeping that offense afloat until he proves that he can pass at the NFL level. And I'm not banking on that ever happening. So right now, Miles Sanders going as the 30th overall pick, the RB17, seems a little silly to me because he's probably going to be sitting in a committee where he has at best a 50%, maybe 60 if we're pushing it, market share in that running back room. And he's going to lose some of the passing work to their new draft pick and Boston Scott. I am not going to have Miles Sanders on any of my teams this year because there's no way he falls far enough that I'm okay with taking him.
Yeah, he's somebody that is pretty much off of my draft board. I didn't like him last year. He struggled quite a bit, and he wasn't very good in the offense once Hurts took over. And yeah, he's way overdrafted as well. That's ridiculous. He's RB17.
You guys had to fucking.
Jill, you guys,
I'm pissed off right now. You guys, we had to do that. We had to record this right after we just sent in our keepers for the next league year, and I kept Miles Sanders,
dumbass,
banking on him as my RB2, and now I'm like,
oops.
Shit, should I be questioning myself? My other option would have been keeping like Marvin Jones. So I didn't.
I'd take Miles Sanders over Marvin Jones.
But Miles Sanders just for the hopes that he does turn it around.
I mean, that's where I sit. So
say Jalen Hurts becomes great, suddenly Miles Sanders is in a good spot. But
if that's kind of the hope, and then Rick, you just brought up Boston Scott, and he's strong, especially in the passing game. They just drafted another passing running back, so. I don't know. Miles Sanders. They picked Miles Sanders in the second round.
Kenny Gainwell.
Kenny Gainwell.
Dr. K. So they did.
Special K.
Special K. They did. I mean, I still think that they're gonna try to use Miles as their primary back. I view him higher than I. Okay, so you guys just shit the bed all over him. Where would you put him and David Montgomery?
I'll take Monty.
I would too.
God damn it.
Dave Montgomery is not in a bad situation.
No, he's still going to get... I look at Montgomery and I see, he's still in a very, very crowded running back room.
What was he last year? The RB6 overall?
RB6 overall. RB4, yeah.
Depending on format.
With Cohen out, but Matt Nagy said that he wants to give him even more work this year. So take that with a grain of
like
salt.
Monty in a big way this year.
Also a tool, so.
Fun fact, right now Dave Montgomery is actually behind Miles Sanders by 6 picks in ADP. So yeah, give me Monty all day. And Najee Harris is behind him too.
Okay, well that's idiotic. Take Najee over both. Over both.
Amen.
Miles,
Preach.
Miles and Monty. Big time.
All right, overvalued. Josh, what you got?
I'm going to throw it to you guys. Do you want me to talk about a tight end, quarterback, or running back? Because I want to bring all three of these players up.
Why don't we start QB? I want to hear this.
All right. So the quarterback I'm saying that is overdrafted right now, he struggled coming into the league with his decision making and accuracy, and
Jalen Hurts
had a huge year last year. Josh Allen going as the QB2 in the third round of your draft right now for redraft purposes. Players going around him right now are Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, Najee Harris, and David Montgomery. Get your running back and wide receiver depth, and then do a quarterback late. We just talked about Justin Herbert going way late in your draft. You're going to have Aaron Rodgers to choose from, Tom Brady. This is all talking redraft right now. But Josh Allen going in the third round and spending a third-round pick on him is just insane. Skip over that, stock up on your positions, and grab a quarterback late in the draft.
Well, we
How do you feel about Dynasty ADP for Josh Allen? Is it better there? What do you think?
I think it's probably a little bit better, but I mean, coming off of that year last year, it's just boosted way up. Where I'd rather take my chances with a rookie quarterback, or I mean, for redraft purposes. I mean, Kyler's going after him, and I'd rather have Kyler.
I'd take Kyler in Dynasty too.
I completely disagree. You guys would rather have Kyler than Josh Allen in Dynasty?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Did you see this not just last year, but the year before? He also put up incredible numbers fantasy-wise.
I think he's a good quarterback.
Because the way that they use him on the ground almost similar to the way that Baltimore uses Lamar on the ground. So you're... I mean,
Dynasty, you're spending a 5th-round pick on Josh Allen, FYI.
Oh, that's not so bad.
So not too bad there for Dynasty, but redraft is just...
Yeah, redraft is too high.
Skip it.
I generally will just take the quarterback that is 6'6" and huge with a huge arm over somebody that's 5'9", tiny, and had one amazing play last year.
You're right. I will also take Justin Herbert in the 10th round.
God, I mean,
that's what I just heard you say.
I'm not saying that you should take Josh Allen. I generally, like, my strategy generally is to kind of wait on QBs, because I know you know that, especially if you know your league partners, a lot of people will take QBs way too damn early.
And homer leagues, you're going to get guys taking people like Aaron Rodgers way too early.
Like 101.
Like our leagues. Yeah.
If we're in Wisconsin, like, Rodgers very well could be 101 kind of a thing. Although maybe not anymore, but maybe last year.
Yeah, we've educated our league just enough that they won't do that anymore.
But I mean, I can't believe you guys in Dynasty would take Kyler over Josh Allen. Can you spell that out for me? Because I see Josh Allen who
KYLE.
God damn you!
In all seriousness, the height is like the biggest thing that you're throwing out there, and Kyler has an incredible touch. He can throw the ball a mile. He can run in a way that is it's different than Lamar, but it is also incredible because his quick little feet can just scoot around anybody.
Kyler was the number one quarterback last year until he got hurt.
The number one overall pick in that draft that he over Baker.
I'd like to turn back to what Josh just said.
That Kyler Murray was the number one quarterback in the league going into like week 10 last year until he got hurt. And then they took away his running aspect.
That's my whole point. That's why I bring why I bring up size.
Can't help injuries.
That's why I bring up size.
No, that's
yes,
not.
Yes, it is. That's why I brought up the size, because Josh Allen is 6'6" and a big dog. Kyler Murray is a AAA shortstop. Size-wise, you're obviously gonna. Of course, he's gonna get hurt. Why would you rather have a teeny tiny guy for a dynasty QB over a huge dude?
Because Kyler's better at playing quarterback if you take size out of the picture.
Okay. You go ahead and do that. You go ahead and take Kyler, and he's gonna.
I missed my chance. I got Herbert now.
He's gonna play maybe 12 games every year, because he's gonna get hurt. Josh Allen is huge. That's why I brought that up, because he's not injury prone. He's never been injured. He's been in the league for 3 years?
4?
And he's never been
I don't know.
injured.
Somewhere in there.
Kyler got injured.
Yeah, good for
Kyler
him.
got injured with his shoulder. By the way, his throwing shoulder in his I believe it was week 10. That matters. That has to matter for Dynasty.
Not enough.
Yeah.
How? What do you mean not enough?
Because it's not actually true to say that Kyler's only going to play 12 games a year. He's going to have a lot of years in his career where he'll play a full 17.
People are
and
saying
he'll
the
be
same
totally
shit
fine.
about Russell Wilson. Look at the career
Okay,
he's had.
but Russell,
He's an inch taller. Inch
It
taller.
doesn't. But we have.
You just said height matters.
We have now. We actually have injury history with Kyler. How does a bum shoulder not matter to you guys? Over Josh Allen, who just put up insane numbers, and he's never been injured, and he's probably not going to.
Let's change gears. Jealous, who you
God.
got for an overvalued player?
I need to re-gear.
All right, in that case, I'll bring something up in the meantime. I just want to, PSA, stop drafting Cole Beasley anywhere at all. I don't know if you two have been aware of what he voiced on Twitter this week.
Yeah.
Basically, his public service announcement that you should steer clear of him if you're afraid of getting COVID because he will not get vaccinated because it won't let him live his life the way that he's supposed to live it. And that is just dumb and uneducated, and it doesn't make any sense because not getting vaccinated does not change your ability to live life more to the fullest. So he might be forced into retirement because he is being this way. And you need to fill your fantasy team with players that you actually want to cheer for. And for that reason, in my opinion, get Cole Beasley off your team and get Antonio Brown off your team. As far as I'm concerned, Antonio Brown just shouldn't be on anyone's team in any league. I know that that's not the reality because he's going to put up enough fantasy numbers to warrant being on rosters.
He's somebody
but from a personal from a personal standpoint, in our dynasty league right now, he's sitting on waivers and I am not picking him up because I am not willing to put someone with horrible character on my fantasy team because I don't want to cheer for them on Sundays. So do the same thing with Cole Beasley. Just don't even think about it. It's more relevant with Antonio Brown, but Cole Beasley is being even dumber than all of the shit that Antonio Brown's done. So stop it. All right, Jealous, you ready to give us an overrated player?
I've cooled off a little bit. Took a nice pack to the forehead. Who
threw it at you?
I'm going to touch on somebody that was just moved. Hot name, Julio Jones.
Julio.
I am not in on Julio at all.
Why?
Obviously, I love his talent, but we saw the way that when Odell went to Cleveland, that didn't work out. We saw when T.O. went to Dallas, that didn't work out. Like, these big-time, huge, older age receivers, into their 30s, this doesn't really work out too much. He's being drafted right now as the wide receiver 15. But he's going ahead of Amari Cooper, who I don't love Amari Cooper, but Amari seems to put up pretty good numbers, steady numbers on a weekly basis, on a yearly basis. He's going ahead of CD, another Cowboy. He's going ahead of CD. He's going ahead of Tyler Lockett, who was a top 10 wide receiver last year. So I guess I'm just not as hot on Julio. And again, he's changing teams, changing QBs. There's definitely still some COVID protocols. So do we know how much of a rapport he can gain with Ryan Tannehill? They're still going to feed the ball to Derrick Henry. It's a defensive-based team, although their defense sucked last year, but they're still, try to be a ground and pound, strong defense kind of a team. I'm not a Julio fan this year.
Finally something we can agree on, Ellis. No, you pretty much nailed it with that. I mean, I give Tannehill a little bit of a boost because I think Julio is definitely an upgrade over Corey Davis. But can Tannehill support two wide receivers where they're being drafted at right now? They're both being drafted in what?
AJ's
Brown's going
coming
in the second round,
AJ's,
late second, early third, and
yep.
Julio's right in the third, fourth round where you're going to have to spend up heavy on both those guys. And Corey Davis, he had a great season last year, but A.J. Brown missed a lot of games, and those were a lot of games where Corey Davis was putting up a lot of numbers because he was the only receiver out on the field for Tannehill to throw to. So it's definitely not going to be your Julio of old with the high-flying Falcons offense. And Julio Jones, let's face it, he's getting up there in age, and he's been injury-plagued the last few seasons too, so he can't stay on the field. I think last year he missed, I don't know how many games. He missed probably close to half the season, I would imagine.
He seems to miss a significant amount of time every single year.
Yep. And that's a lot of games missed for somebody being drafted in the fourth round.
If you're in a dynasty league, unless you are the team that is going to try to just draft all your veterans in year one and just go for gold immediately, which is not my style. But if that's your style, you are the person who should be taking Julio, and everyone else should not be, because there are quality receivers such as Cortland Sutton sitting behind him in ADP that are going to be so much more valuable in your entire, next dynasty decade, that Julio's going to get you, he'll have good games for sure, and he might even put up a couple good seasons still, but he's 3 years away from 35 years old. He's on his final stretch here, and we don't know when it's going to end for him. I don't know that it'll be this year, but it could be next. It could be right after that. In Dynasty, let him go unless you're that guy going for the win right now.
Where do you guys see that touchdown total coming in at? I mean, he was not a touchdown machine in Atlanta. Now he's got red zone competition with obviously with King Henry and with AJ. So where do you like if I put the over under at 4 touchdowns, where would you guys lean?
I would lean the over just barely.
Yeah,
I was thinking
5 or 6 is where I was leaning on it.
Yeah, that seems
because
seems right.
AJ Brown, when AJ Brown's healthy, he scores at least a touchdown every single game. Go back and look at last year when he was healthy. He scored a touchdown every week. Derrick Henry scores all the time. There's only so many touchdowns to go around. So it might end up being under 5 this year for Julio.
There was that one year where Julio had like 2,200 yards, and I believe he had like 3 touchdowns.
It was 3 touchdowns
That's when you had him, and you got screwed. So that's my point. I mean, he's obviously capable of scoring touchdowns, but it seems like is he allergic to the paint in the end zone? I don't. Why does he struggle so much there? So, and now he's got additional targets that the Titans have to feed.
And if you're in the middle of your dynasty league, as far as like you're a couple years in and you have him on your team, I'd wait for that one big game that he has and then try and unload him, get his stock up a little bit. You're gonna have some league members that are probably scared to trade for him right now, just with him switching over teams, not sure how he's going to fit into that offense. But as soon as he has a big game, look for that team that's in win now mode and see if you can get at least a little bit of a haul for him.
Especially in Dynasty, if you're able to flip him for some, either a young piece or a good pick, because
he doesn't have many years left.
Yep. Especially in
big
Dynasty.
Time. Once you get a few weeks in, just wait for the big game and then do it then. It doesn't have to be right before the deadline. Sometime in the 6 weeks leading up to the deadline, get him on a team that is already winning so that you can win the next 3 years after that. Moving on from Julio, you guys got other overvalued players?
Yeah.
I got one left. Josh, you got something?
I got 2 left, so I'll throw one out and then we'll hop back around and then we can finish up with me. One that I think is being overdrafted right now in both redraft and dynasty is DeAndre Swift. He's going off the board right now as a running back 16, ADP of the 29th overall off the board. In dynasty leagues, he's being drafted in the back half of the first round. Other players being drafted right around him in redraft are Josh Jacobs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, Najee Harris. I mean, of those guys are ones that I would rather have over DeAndre Swift. You've got Jamal Williams there that's going to take some of the passing work away, some of the third down work. Lions are in full rebuild mode right now. You don't know who's going to be their quarterback after next season. Jared Goff's going to be there for right now, but he's just somebody that just scares me because you're investing a lot in him where you're going to have to draft him in order to I'm
gonna let Rick take this one.
Yeah, you took mine. That was who I had sitting out there too.
Dynasty wise, two players that are going after him that I'd rather have. I talked about Clyde Edwards-Helaire in redraft. He's going before Cam Akers, Justin Jefferson.
Are you saying
Calvin
Swift is going
Ridley,
ahead of Cam Akers
and Jamar Chase? Correct.
That's idiotic.
Swift is going ahead of all 5 of those guys. Just insane.
Yeah, it is silly. The Lions haven't ruled out signing Todd Gurley either. They also just drafted Jamar Jefferson. I don't know that he's going to have a role immediately, but he's not a bad player either. This is kind of a crowded running back room on a shitty team with a mostly shitty defense, and I just do not see a world where he returns the draft capital that you have to spend on him right now. There is a 0% chance I will own DeAndre Swift this year at all.
I guess I just think kind of like 100% differently than you guys. I mean, I would obviously take Cam Akers if it was between him and DeAndre Swift, but in both Dynasty and Redraft. But the reason that I think maybe I'm higher on Swift than both of you, I'm considering that coach, and he is like an absolute alpha. Let's go get him. Put your bullhorns on and let's charge forward. I want a real bell cow running back kind of a thing. And I could
you can have a bell cow and you're down by 40 every game.
That's fair. That's fair. Although
we'll find out.
Swifty did show that he can receive the ball the second half of last year.
Yeah, he's not a bad receiver at all.
Not the first when he had that game-winning touchdown against the Bears week 1.
Right? That's right.
That's how Trubisky ended up 3-0 because of that, and then they benched him.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, well,
kissing titties. That's gonna be on his tombstone.
Right.
But that's a hashtag you guys can do, hashtag kissing titties. Yeah, no, I guess I'm higher on Swift than you guys because I think Dan Campbell is an absolute nut job, and I think he would be the one that would drive a running back into the ground more than most other coaches, and use Swift as that bell cow in the passing game, in the run game. When they're down by 40, still use him. So I'm higher on him. I'm higher on him than you guys. I would probably say I'm higher on. I would if I were to pick between DeAndre Swift and Josh Jacobs, where would you guys sit?
I'll take Swift.
I would take Swift.
I'd sit Jacobs.
Okay. I figured those two are pretty,
I mean, everybody was disappointed with Jacobs last year, and he finishes the RB, 6, 8, somewhere in there.
Which is insane. He just never had any sort of like super breakout games.
Other than his 3 touchdown
where he
week
would
1.
put up, 30 points or whatever. I mean, he was just solid. But
and don't get me wrong either. I like DeAndre Swift as a player. I just don't like where he's being drafted right now because there's so many other proven players that are being drafted at that spot that I would rather have to fill in my team than somebody that's very unproven and I don't.
I'm looking at Swift at the RB16 hole. Is that the?
Yep.
Where would you? So you've got. I mean. You've got Miles Sanders at 17. I would obviously take Swift. I don't know. I mean, I feel like he's rated exactly where he should be from this ADP that we are looking at.
Najee's behind him.
Yeah, Najee's behind him. I want Najee over Swift all day.
Fair.
I think. All right. How about this one? David Montgomery or DeAndre Swift? Jell, I know your answer. Josh, what's your answer?
Oh man. That's tough. We talking Dynasty or redraft?
Let's start with redraft.
Redraft, I'd probably have David Montgomery because I think the Bears' offense is going to be better and he's going to have more opportunities this year. Dynasty, I'd rather have DeAndre Swift.
I would
agree.
say that shouldn't make much of a difference. I mean, these are both guys that are in their second. Well, is Monty, is he in his third year?
Monty's
Third year.
older.
And
Third
Swift
year, he's a
is
little bit
in
older.
his second, so it shouldn't make that much of a difference. I mean,
The difference to me is just that the Lions will get better. So
are you sure
over
about
time,
that? Have you seen the Lions
I'm
over
not.
the last
I'm not.
50
Have you
I'm
years?
seen
not
their new
sure.
hat with the big L
By
on
the
it?
way,
I am. I
been
forgot about the hat.
decades since they've done anything.
I agree, but this is the beginning of a completely new rebuild, which means that maybe they can get up to 8-8, and that is better than what they're going to do now. Give me Swift in.
They canned their coach that went 9-7.
Oh, that's right. They did do that, didn't they?
They canned their coach that
Oops.
went 9-7, and then they dropped back to the Lions.
Well, the
Yeah,
Bears
they
fired
always
Lovie
gotta-
Smith after a 10-6 season, so
Dumb. Yeah. So in 2 years from now, I'm probably going to be more on the Swift wagon over some of these other guys we've been bringing up.
Let's get Swift.
Because I believe in the talent completely. It's just this isn't the year.
Do you
so
think in 2
this
years
is-
there's going to be somebody other than Goff?
I do.
yeah, 100%.
Yep. There might be next year, but it might be Goff trains a guy for 8 weeks before he gets replaced. And Goff's not even that bad, but they just need someone better. Let's see. Josh, you had another guy sitting in the ranks.
Did you have anybody else before I throw my last guy out there?
I mean, I pretty much touched on all my guys. I have the last guy that I really wanted to touch on was Melvin, but we got him in the.
He was on my
Devontae.
list, so I skipped over him. Yep, because of that. The last one is a tight end that I wanted to talk about. He's going off the board right now as a tight end 6. I'll run through some stats here, and then I'll knock you on your socks with my last fact.
Cole
here.
Kmet,
For,
guarantee it. Let's go.
No, he's not tight end 6. Come on.
And he's not he's not overrated because nobody's drafting him.
Right.
So tight end 6, this tight end is currently being drafted overall for redrafted the 79.7 spot, so in the 9th round of your draft. Dynasty, he's going at the 7.07 spot. He is Noah Fant of the Denver Broncos. And the reason why I think he's being overdrafted right now, Denver is not a prolific passing offense. You have Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton there that we already touched on a little bit earlier on today. He's currently being drafted over other players in his area, not tight end wise. Other Cortland Sutton, Deebo Samuel, Travis Etienne, Will Fuller V, and Robbie Anderson. And the last stat I want to throw out is he is being drafted currently in redraft over Kyle Pitts.
That's dumb. That can't be real.
Okay,
So he
we
is
need to,
Where's
being
Kyle Pitts?
overdrafted.
if that's the case, like
Oh, you're not kidding. Wow.
I am vomiting. I'm throwing up. I'm
That
currently
is
throwing
just
up.
silly. All right, so Kyle Pitts is undervalued. Let's start there. That's something we can quick say.
Quick save. But I
Good
just think I
Lord.
like Noah Fant as a person.
Wait,
He's somebody
what are
that I
you-
would take a late round flyer on, but he needs to move down in the draft.
Yeah. He hasn't been healthy for very much of his career. I've owned him for the last couple of years in a couple leagues, and he has not been startable much because he's always got some nagging injury that makes me say, well, I guess I'd rather start Dallas Goedert or Irv Smith or one of these other guys who is basically the same thing but more healthy than Noah Fant. Until he can string together a healthy season or show us that he can dominate a game, he has no business being at the tight end 6 because that is reserved for tight ends that actually produce on a weekly basis or have the ability to go for 100-plus yards in a game. This is silly.
I mean, Kyle Pitts should obviously be ranked way ahead of Noah Fant. I'm looking at Noah Fant as he's probably my receiver or my tight end, maybe like 6 or 7. Is that too high? If I go Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, Mark Andrews, Hawk,
Sure.
Pitts, not necessarily in this order. I would
Right.
have Pitts higher than that, but if I did those 6 and then I throw Fant in there at 7, is that an appropriate spot to think about,
Probably. He's in a grouping of people that you could take your shot on.
I think that's the
kinda
right
see
spot
him.
for him. There's just a teardrop between those
clear,
first
very
six.
very clear. Very clear.
And
drop.
that just doesn't seem to be reflected. People still have the optimism that Fant can actually be healthy and dominate when now he has too many guys around him that are better than him.
Yeah.
On
And
that
it's just
Denver offense.
if he had Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or somebody like that throwing the ball, sure.
Tom Brady more than
they could
Rodgers.
support. But they could support 3 receivers or 2 wide receivers and a tight end. You got Teddy Bridgewater in there that he's not going to be able to support all 3. So you're going to be picking and choosing. And
does Teddy B have any history of supporting these tight ends? I mean,
No.
in Minnesota with Kyle Rudolph, although I would make the argument, Kyle Rudolph we all knew was strong, but Rudolph really took off when Kirk came to Minnesota, at least numbers wise.
No.
Yeah.
So
in Carolina, he didn't really feed any tight ends either.
So Teddy doesn't really seem to feed that tight end too much, even though he seems like a QB that would want.
He hasn't had a great one yet. So maybe in theory, if Fant has the talent that everyone says,
Kyle Rudolph is a really solid tight end. When he was younger, he was. I'm not saying that he was I could make the argument he was between 5 and 8, number 5 and 8 tight end in the league.
Sure, that's fine.
But so I guess he's gonna have basically the exact same guy with Noah Fant between 5 and 8 in the league.
He's just more athletic.
Fant is definitely more athletic than Rudolph. No,
yeah.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to lead Santa's sleigh.
All right, well, I think that'll do it for us here today. Covered our risers, fallers, overvalued, undervalued. Next week we'll be getting into some deep dives and other categories we want to put these players into, so you
can't wait to give out my sleeper picks.
Yeah, sleeper picks. Yeah, all that good stuff. So who to target in your drafts, who to let slide for someone else to fall into that trap. But thanks for joining us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.